All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us. This is Left Bank Books welcomes contributing editor for Book Riot and Washington University in St. Louis alumni Jessica P. Pryde, who will discuss their anthology that collects a refreshingly wide variety of perspectives on Black love matters, real talk on romance, being seen, and happily ever afters. Tonight, Pryde will be in conversation with YA and adult author of the recently released I'm So Not Over You, Kosoko Jackson. And I pulled up yesterday's history because that is one of my favorites. But just recently out, I'm So Not Over You, which I will share the link as well. Left Bank Books is St. Louis's oldest independent bookstore. We would like to thank all of our supporters, the supporters of Jessica and Kosoko, and everyone for their outpouring of love for our bookstore. We offer in-store shopping, curbside pickup, and delivery to anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. We are happy to be able to bring our event series virtual. We believe that events are a way to expand your mind and bring in new thoughts to make the world a better place. We hope that you enjoyed this event, and we hope that you support Left Bank Books by purchasing a copy for you or for all of your friends at left-bank.com. Purchasing a copy of the book from Left Bank Books allows us to keep our bookstore and staff operating, and it allows us to continue bringing you such incredible authors. Thank you so much for your support. I am Shane Mullen. I'm the events coordinator for Left Bank Books. We will be taking questions from you, the audience, at the end of the event, so you can type your questions as a comment. And be sure to follow Left Bank Books on Facebook and YouTube to be notified about all of our fantastic virtual events. And now, about our speakers this evening. Jessica P. Pryde is a contributing editor for Book Riot, where she is the co-host of the When in Romance podcast and writes about bookish things of all kinds. Having earned an AB in the Interdisciplinary Project in the Humanities at Washington University in St. Louis and her MLIS at San Jose University, she is now a librarian for a public library system in southern Arizona, where she lives with her husband and an ever-growing collection of Funko Pops. Black Love Matters is her first book. And tonight, Jessica will be in conversation with Kosoko Jackson. Kosoko was born and raised in the DC metro area and recently changed from a life obsessed with domestic politics to a life obsessed with international politics, which is different and the same, all at the same time. And now about tonight's book, Black Love Matters, real talk on romance, being seen, and happily ever afters. An incisive intersectional essay anthology that celebrates and examines romance and romantic media through the lens of Black readers, writers, and cultural commentators, edited by Book Riot columnist and librarian Jessica Pryde. Romantic love has been one of the most essential elements of storytelling for centuries, but for Black people in the United States and across the diaspora, it hasn't often been easy to find in Black romance, joyfully showcased in entertainment media. In this collection, revered authors and sparkling newcomers, librarians and academicians, wow, I don't think I actually know how to say that word, and avid readers and reviewers consider the mirrors and windows into Black love as it is depicted in the novels, television shows, and films that have shaped their own stories. Whether personal reflection or cultural commentary, these essays delve into Black love now and in the past, including topics from the history of Black romance, to social justice in the Black community, to the meaning of desire and desirability, exploring the multifaceted ways love is seen and the ways it isn't. This diverse array of Black voices collectively shines a light on the power of crafting happy endings for Black lovers. Jessica Pryde is joined by a long list of incredible authors in this book, many of whom we have hosted before, and proud to have joining, well, we have one of them joining us here tonight, Kosoko Jackson. And now, I am so happy and proud to introduce a dear friend of mine, and just thrilled that you were joining us tonight. We have Jessica P. Pryde and Kosoko Jackson joining us for Left Bank Books. Hello.
Hello.
Well, I am So excited to hear about this conversation. I'm thrilled to be able to celebrate both of your new books. And I'm going to pass off the conversation to you while I just enjoy hearing your incredible words this evening.
You get the easy part.
I do. I get to just sit back in admiration of both of you. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, you can still hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Shane, for inviting both of us, and to Left Bank Books for hosting this conversation. I am really excited that I get to talk with Kosoko today because this is actually not the first time we've met face to face, actually. But
when did we meet?
I'll tell you. A million years ago, you were at a library conference signing the book that shall not be named.
Got it.
And I wandered into your area of the exhibit hall floor and we had a little chat. I don't think it was very long, but it was really nice. It was great to see a face like yours, one, at a library conference, because I'll tell you.
It's rare. There's no Negroes there.
It's rare. But also just like a young Black queer man writing for and publishing books. It was just like a delight to see. And I think I can't remember how long ago that was, so I don't know if I was still a YA librarian at that point.
It was 2018.
Okay, so I had left young adult, but only in body, not in mind.
Oh, wow, that was a long time ago. You just a blast from the past. Well, it's great to be here with you now in this new cluster of a world.
Indeed. So, this might be a strange question to ask, A, in public, and B, in this particular venue, but I kind of have to know. Where did you go to high school?
Oh. So, what a weird question. I wonder where this is going. So I went to a school called the Beto School in Accokeek, Maryland. It does not exist anymore, but it was a small college prep school of like 30 people.
Okay. I had to know because I am also a DC native and I went to school without walls. So
Okay.
I have to find out where people went to high school if I meet them later in life where neither of us is really doing anything related to that. So
there's so few of us also from the DC area. So I'm like, when I tell people Accokeek, they're like, where is that?
And I'm just like, oh, I've seen that sign before.
Right. You at least know the sign exists.
Absolutely. Okay. So let's talk about all of this.
All of this.
It's so hard because like you and I are minor pieces in the bigger part of this book and haven't really talked face to face before, and you know we're getting through this. But so since Shane excellently introduced the book, why don't you tell people about what you wrote about?
Sure. So I wrote my essay is called Please Sir, Can I Have Some More? How Breadcrumbs of Queer Characters in Entertainment Helped Me Establish My Own Sense of Self. I am obsessed with entertainment and media. It's kind of all I consume. Before the pandemic started, I was a person who went to 100 movies a year in theater, or I tried to every year. I usually got closer to 80. And I watched a lot of TV shows. So I kind of got my idea of self and my identity from entertainment. Even when I was in high school, I went to school an hour away from where I lived. So I wasn't really able to have like friends over and stuff over like the weekends and such like that. So I spent a lot of time reading and watching entertainment. And I kind of got my own queer identity from entertainment as a whole. It's how I discovered that I was gay. I remember specifically when we got cable, because I lived in a place called St. Mary's County, which is an hour south of Accokeek and an hour and a half south of DC. So when we first got cable, and I was using it for the first time, I turned on Degrassi to the specific episode in Degrassi when Marco comes out as gay. And I was like, oh, that's my feeling. Like I understand who I am now. So I really claim a lot of TV and such of like who I am. And so when I was approached for this anthology, I knew that I wanted to write about the queer characters that shaped me and like how they shaped me.
And you do it so well. I love the way that you sort of break down the identities and all of that in that particular essay.
It's my first nonfiction essay like anthology, so I very much appreciate that. I remember sitting in the Seattle airport waiting to fly back home from vacation because I had like a 3-hour wait, typing this essay very vividly.
That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Oh gosh, there are so many different things that I love about this book, and part of it is the fact that we were able to pull together so many faces and so many voices, and just the fact that, you know, like, I'll tell you, the first cover for this book was just of a Black woman. It was a beautiful cover, I gotta tell you. I loved that image just for itself. I kind of wanted to like go find the artist and be like, can I just have that? Is it pretty? Like, so beautiful. I want the earrings that this woman is wearing and everything. But I really wanted to make sure that it felt more like what the body of the book was talking about. So not just a woman's perspective, not just a straight perspective or anything like that. So I was like, can we do kind of like a triptych of couples? And but a triptych of couples, and it was just
It's
like
beautiful. It's a beautiful cover.
Perfect. Like, this artwork by Monica Ahanonu is like it. Those of you who are following us, Google her, find her website, find her work, and just to look at the beautiful artwork that Monica Ahanonu has created for this book. For, you know, she's done some advertising campaigns. She's illustrated other books. I think she's done a couple picture books, but just like, anyway, sorry. I
No,
am
we
such a
love
fan
Sam.
over her now. It's so hilarious because it's just like, I want everybody to like know who she is, because this is like, she saw into my brain when it was like, can I just have like 3 couples, you know, straight couple and a woman couple? So yeah, I'm done now, I think.
But I think that's so important because like oftentimes it's not exactly tangential, but I see one thing is that sometimes when I see like review websites and they're talking about like diversity, it's like a very narrow view of diversity. Like I remember very clearly seeing a list that was like the top 50 like LGBT books coming out next year, and it was like only one of the letters, which I mean, like, there's nothing against that, but like, call it like a gay list, not an LGBT list, when every book is a book of only one letter. And so I think it's really important, especially when we have ideas and like society has ideas of what Blackness can be, to show the different facets of Blackness.
Absolutely. And I feel like there could be a million volumes of Black Love Matters and they wouldn't capture all of the points of view that we as Black people share about romance, romantic media, TV, movies, romance novels, all of that stuff. But I'm really glad that we at least sort of started with this one where
No,
it's like,
100%.
you've got you, and like, I hate to like call you our voice of Black male romance, but you're kind of like, and you've got this amazing book. Do I have my copy up here? Those of you, I know Shane showed you yesterday its history, but like, I'm So Not Over You. Look at this book.
It is a good cover.
This book. This is something that is so rarely seen. I'm not even sure. This is a big first, I think, right?
Yeah, I don't think.
You know.
I actually don't know because like I am so new to rom-coms, but I do, and have always been very hesitant. And because it's like sometimes people get forgotten when we talk about these things. I don't.
Yeah, definitely.
There is another traditionally published own voice written by a male identifying Black author rom-com that's traditionally published by Big Fives. Like there's many in the trades. I mean, in the indies. I don't think there's one in Big Fives. If there is one, somebody should tell me so I can like lift it up. But I don't think there is one. I remember I did a book event maybe 6-8 months ago for, I can't remember what it was. Book events start to blur together after a while. And they were like, 5 years ago, we would never have a male on this panel because male rom-coms written by men are, first of all, very rare. But rom-coms written by Black men, they just don't really exist in publishing.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I know that there's like Frederick Smith, who publishes mostly with Boldstroke books, I think, but they're very much like not rom-coms. Like they're still joyful, but they're not presented as rom-coms. And of course, we've got Elin Harris from back before you were born.
Wait, how old are we talking now? What year are we talking?
I feel like Elin Harris wrote books in like the early 90s.
I was born in 1991, so I was alive. I was.
You were alive, okay, but not aware.
Not aware. I was not conscious.
And so, you know, there have been Black writers who wrote Black love stories, Black male writers who wrote Black love stories, sometimes queer, sometimes not. But just the feeling of picking up I'm So Not Over You and holding in my hands, like, especially because, you know, illustrated covers have gotten a lot of flack, but they can present something like that so amazingly.
Yeah, no, I remember. It's so funny how like you get older and like you change. Like I started writing rom-coms and writing more about romance in like 2020. That's when I decided I wanted to start doing this. And before then I was like, I never want to see an illustrated cover. They look cheap to me. And then like something just switched literally overnight. And I was like, these illustrated covers are so cute. Like I just love them. And you can explore so much. As a writer, like my publishers often like when they make my covers, like who would you celebrity cast? And like it's so hard because there's just not many Black choices. Like white writers often have it so much easier. And illustrated covers just give us so much freedom.
Yeah, to present the people that we see in our heads, or that maybe we don't have the ability to do a special photo shoot for or find stock imagery for. So yeah, they make things a little easier for covers, especially for very incredibly marginalized people.
No, exactly. I'm curious, what was your inspiration for writing, for like recruiting us all for this anthology?
Well, I read, are you familiar with the book Well-Read Black Girl?
Yep.
Okay, so I read that in 2018, 2019, whatever year it came out. And I really enjoyed it. It was a book I very much connected with, but none of the people who what do you call it? None of the people who contributed mentioned romance novels or were openly romance readers, and I wanted something that felt more like me, and I sat on it for a while, and then I was like, you know what if this was actually a thing that people wanted to do? So I reached out to Tara, who's my agent now, and I asked her if it was an idea that could be sold. And she was very encouraging and was like, here's all the information you need to write a nonfiction proposal. I think you've got something here. And you know what? Maybe start reaching out to people who you think would be good contributors, because I had a foundation of an idea for it, but not like a really broad, like these are exactly the people that I want to talk to. So I sort of sat down with my own personal list of perspectives and types, because it was like, it would be great if it's all authors, but it would be really interesting if it was also people who aren't authors and people who don't want to write romance novels but love reading them. So it was one of those things where I sort of had to like figure out all of the because this, I mean, if I hadn't stopped reaching out to people, this could have been like a 700-page book, and you know that could have been nice. But I did also have to edit all of the essays, so
yeah, that's a lot of work. Let's see, I can never do that. But then maybe you could make like a whole series out of it. Like we can have like volume 2.
Well, maybe I'll see what they want to do at Berkeley. I don't know. We haven't really talked about that, but it would definitely be interesting if people wanted to get involved.
No, I agree. I think that like you had something really important here and really valuable and something that really adds. I've definitely even on Twitter like seen people talking about it. I see people on Instagram talking about it. Like I think sometimes we under expect how much people want to hear about Black love and about like Black positivity, or at least our industry does, but like it's there and the market is there no matter what people say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been seeing like I call it like coming across it in the wild. Like you don't expect to, like nobody's tagged you or anything. You're just kind of scrolling and it just pops up.
It's the best feeling though, isn't it?
It is. It's like, oh my gosh, somebody I don't know is excited about this book.
I mean, it's a good book. It's a good it's groundbreaking, I would say.
It is, and it's something that I've had to like be willing to just say, this is an amazing piece of work. Everyone should read it, because I don't call myself humble, but I do kind of underestimate my own abilities. And I know that I did very little work as far as this book goes. All of you did so much of this work.
You had to do the editing. That's a lot of work.
I did.
Don't sell yourself short.
See, there we go. Oh, okay. Anyway, so yeah, so I thought about it, and the fact that I was able to recruit and place Beverly Jenkins first in this list, and it's perfect that she was like, sure, sign me up. I think I want to write about the history of Black romance, and it's like, please do that, because
like,
that's the perfect.
Right.
I don't even need to write an introduction. I did still, but it's like the perfect segue into everything else that comes after it.
No, fully agree. It's the perfect like opening.
Yeah. Okay. I'm curious. Of the essays that you didn't write in this book, not what was your favorite, but like what had the most new information to you as someone who comes from a similar perspective, background, everything else as your other contributors?
Oh, that's a good one. You did not prep me for this question.
I'm sorry.
Why did you not prep me for this question? Okay, so there's two. Like, I think Beverly Jenkins is the cop-out answer, because before 2020, I had never read like any type of romance in my whole entire life. So I think that's a cop-out answer. I would specifically think, and I don't remember the title, it's by Adriana Herrera, about the Black Latinx experience. I think that that's something that we don't touch on enough. I always see like these big discussions, and like I remember a very specific discussion about 4 or 5 years ago with Gina Rodriguez about Latinx and Black communities. And that intersection is something that we don't talk about enough. Like I think we as a society, especially Americans, have a really shitty view and understanding of race, and how someone who is brown can either be Latinx or they are Black. They cannot be both, because that breaks people's minds. So be able to like learn about that. Even like me, I'm a Black person. I consider myself fairly educated, and I try to push myself. Like I was learning things in these essays that I never knew about. And I think that one was one that like really opened my eyes. I very much consider it not like rom-com and romance level 202 as a class, but even just being like a citizen of Blackness level 202, because that's like it's very much how I consider, like, it's like math. When we first wrote, like, you can only add positive numbers, and then you get to high school and they're like, no, there are negative numbers and there's imaginary numbers. And so it's just like the learning is just we think that you don't really learn. You just write cute books and like you just write happy stories. But there's just so much depth and history and like being Black and being a POC as a political experience is a political act in itself. Writing happiness, writing intersectional joy is even more of an act of politics. Even more of a political act.
I am so glad that this is being recorded because I'm going to have to write that one down. I hope that you wrote that one down because that's like
Put it on a shirt.
Yes. That's going to be our gear. Get some merch with Black Joy Political Act.
I was going to ask you which one's your favorite, but I'm sure you can't have a favorite.
I can't have a favorite. It's like I couldn't even imagine trying to figure out a favorite. All of them are so incredibly different. They like some of, you know, they're the ones that are like so personal and the ones that are like they're personal, but then you get into like the academic theory and it's like, wow, my mind just exploded. And then you got Christina's at the end, which is kind of like a mic drop on the whole establishment of romance. And it's just where do I even start? Like, you just gotta keep reading the book over and over again. And that'll be the thing. But what you said about Adriana's is absolutely true. Like, we don't, like, that's another reason that I wanted to make sure that she was involved in this, because we do always like split the Latinx experience and the Black experience. Like, no, there are Black people who are Latinx, and it's like,
yeah, people don't understand race. I struggle with race. Race is a complicated question, especially like
it is such a complicated question.
I saw something like how Americans view race and how the rest of the world view race is even completely different. And so it's like, I understand that people are confused, but like that doesn't mean that we don't strive to learn. I think it's always important. I would rather mess up and take one step further in my learning than to be ignorant forever.
Oh, that's another shirt. Right there. You just gotta like start like carrying, well, you have a phone, so like just record yourself talking all the time, and then just find things that are going to be great on like coffee mugs,
right,
and all that stuff.
Open an Etsy shop.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we've seen the whole thing with race, even like what's happening right now, like the not just like Black Ukrainians, but like African students living in Ukraine have to deal with, you're not Ukrainian, so you don't matter kind of stuff over there. So yeah, I just finished reading the 1619 Project like 3 days ago. So one, I needed to like start reading a romance novel immediately so that I could be happy again.
Right.
If You Love Something is a really great romance novel if anybody's looking for one. But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff about race in the US and everywhere else that's sort of things that we're still learning about. That's one perspective that I actually wanted to get for this book that I couldn't find. I mean, I'm sure someone existed, but and a couple of the contributors are from other places that aren't the United States, but they live here now for the most part. So it's not quite the same to have the perspective of someone living in another country.
It can be a little hard.
Yeah. So, but I don't even, what were we talking about? See?
Talking about race, the most complicated topic of all.
It is the most complicated topic of all, because it doesn't exist.
It's a construct.
It is a construct. Unfortunately, we all have to live with it because it is a construct that very much has everything to do with how we live and breathe and write and work, especially in the US, but really absolutely. Everywhere. Oh gosh. So you just announced that you have another book coming out.
I do.
So Is it connected to I'm So Not Over You?
So it's very, very, very loosely connected, not close enough to be considered like a series. So I'm So Not Over You takes place in Boston and Atlanta. This takes place in a fictional town called Harper's Cove in Maine. Very much Gilmore Girl vibes. There's 9,000 people. Everybody knows everybody. There's even a Main Street, and everybody's shop is like an alliteration. Like I don't even remember what like one of them. Like David's Donuts. Like they're all alliterations. It's very cute. But it's connected in that in I'm So Not Over You, Hudson's family owns a brewery called Rivers and Valleys, and Rivers and Valleys, the beer, exists inside of this universe. There's actually a scene where the main character goes to a bar and orders his favorite beer, which is Rivers and Valleys.
That's great. I love those little links that even if it's not like this person's brother is going to fall in love and then their younger sister is going to fall in love. So
Just
I do
enough.
love siblings and friends groups, but I also really like the like this is kind of connected and you're gonna have a callback to the other book, but it's not like directly related.
Right, and who knows if maybe I'll write a short story or something for like a pre-order campaign where like the characters meet each other. Who knows?
That sounds good. You've said it here.
I've said it here, so now it has to happen.
Even if it's just for me.
Right, I'll send it to you by email.
Okay, so I am curious. You said that you're a newcomer to adult romance. What brought you into our world?
So I was laying in bed one night and I was literally like, I need some joy. It's some kind of boring story. And I was just like, I had a lot of romance friends. So I'm very close with Jen DeLuca. We were in the trenches together. I've known Jen I think I've known Jen for almost 6 or 7 years now. And so I've always seen her rom-coms. I'm decently good friends with Casey McQuiston. So I have like the connection periphery to rom-coms. I just never thought there was like space for me. And then honestly, when Red, White, and Royal Blue did really successfully, I was like, well, that kind of planted the seed in my head about queer rom-coms having a place in traditional publishing. And then one day I just woke up, which is how most things happen in my life, that I suddenly do a 90-degree turn. Bless my agent for answering all my 5 a.m. emails at like 7 o'clock in the morning at a normal time. And I just rolled over and I was like, I want to write a rom-com. And he was like, you are a YA science fiction writer. What makes you think you can write a rom-com? Send me a proposal tomorrow. I mean, whenever you he's just very supportive of me and my like out of the box ideas. I'll be like the next day, like, I want to write deep historical literary fiction. He's like, if you think you can handle it, send it to me. And so, yeah, we did 4 different proposal packets. For anybody watching, a proposal is basically like you write, especially for fiction, usually 50 to 100 pages, a synopsis, and you sell it on the concept of the book. So we wrote 4 of those. So I pretty much wrote about 200 pages before we settled on this one. And then we sold it. I put it on submission and it sold in 4 months.
Beautiful. I love it. I'm so glad that happened. I'm glad that you were sad. And yeah, I'm really glad that you've joined this group of people. But I gotta say, what are the chances that we might get some grown-up time travel? Because like Shane, I absolutely loved Yesterday's History, and I am the biggest fan of time travel romance. So if we can get some like adult,
listen, I'm not gonna call out my editor here because I don't do that, but I did pick Kate and Leopold that might have been shut down. I'm just saying that, Christine, if you're here, there seems to be an audience for it. She's gonna kill me. She's absolutely gonna kill me.
I mean, even if you have to send me that one also over email, like I will be an audience of one. I'm fine with that. I understand that not everybody is in my niche.
Y'all historical romance authors do too much research, and here's the thing, maybe you can help me. I want a historical romance that is not set in the Regency period. Do those exist?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
You've got to, okay, so 95% of historical romance is set in the Regency period. Okay, maybe 90. Let's go with 90.
You're just gonna hit me straight with it.
But you've got Miss Bev's books, and Beverly Jenkins will write you an American 19th century American book,
Okay.
from pre-Civil War through Reconstruction, and you can basically find any trope you want in that collection. And she's still writing, and she will hopefully be writing forever. I hope she has found the fountain of youth so she can just keep on living and keep on writing for us, because I want to always have access to Beverly Jenkins's books. You've got, oh gosh, I know that there are books that aren't Regency books. You have Courtney Milan has some Regency books, but she also writes later in the 19th century, so some Victorian stuff. Some there's some Edwardian stuff. Yes, the answer is yes. There aren't many,
I just gotta
but
look.
we can go before the Regency. We've got some medieval stuff.
Close, like after, like, do we have any? Maybe doesn't have like Edwardian would be great. Georgian Edwardian would be great.
Yeah, well, like Jude Lucens has only written two books, and I hope that she continues to write more. And that, like, her book that I've read is Edwardian. It's like 1912 or something like that. And Cat Sebastian, oh gosh, what's it called? I've forgotten the name of it. I will look it up.
Okay,
But
look it up.
the author is Jude Lucens. She is a Black woman, and writes about people who have chronic illnesses that previously at that point would have not been named. But they're like really good, and the one that I've read is also features a much different take on polyamory than your average trifecta, what the closed third or closed three. I know what it's called, but I cannot. Closed triad. That's it.
There we go.
I need more caffeine, even though it's 6:30 at night. And yeah, so there's some really great historical romance authors who write outside the period, but you're very right. There are so many Regency romances, and well, okay, so there was Georgette Heyer, who started writing in like the 40s or something, and she sort of wrote this proto Jane Austen type world in romance, and then 30 years later we get real romance happening again, and for some reason that 7-year span or something like that was where everybody decided to write, because that was the height of the aristocracy and the ton. And even though I doubt there were even like 5 dukes, it, like, the clothing and all of that stuff in like the world of Jane Austen was something that people decided was the period that they wanted to settle in. And I'm sure that someone has written more about this that I could read more about, because I can't remember all of the reasons why. But yeah, for some reason we settled into the very short period just for the Empire waistlines and the dukes. Like, I don't know why.
No, you're right. It's a 9-year period, and I don't understand why every book is written in this 9-year period.
It's like there wasn't a king and there wasn't a queen, so let's just, like, we don't have to talk about royalty. It's just all dukes.
All right, now here's the question I need to ask: if someone being me has never read a Beverly Jenkins book, what's the top one I should read?
I have told so many people to read Rebel.
Okay.
Which is one of her more recent books.
Okay.
But everyone will tell you that the best place to start is with Indigo.
Okay.
Like, Margot Hendricks, who has an essay in this book, even did a 2-hour masterclass on Indigo over the weekend, and it was amazing. I loved it. But Indigo was sort of like everyone's big, like, if you're going to read one, read that one. And then after you finish and are like, God, I need more, then you can read Rebel. And then you can sort of wander around as you like, because you'll have like 30 books to read.
Got it. Okay. Because when an author is so prolific, I'm like, I don't know where to start, and it's intimidating.
Yeah, it's like, do I just start at the beginning and move through? But yeah, there is so much wonderfulness in her catalog that I doubt if, like, no matter where you started, you would enjoy it. But I would agree with people who say that your entry spot is Indigo and then Rebel, which is my favorite.
Okay. I will buy them as soon as I'm done with this call.
All right. Do we have any more stuff to talk about, or do we want to go ahead and bring Shane in?
Let's bring Shane in.
Okay.
All right. It's time for my oddball questions. First off, just like, this conversation is thrilling, and I'm so happy to be able to hear it happening. I had so many questions on my own, and Jessica, how much juice and gossip can we talk about here? Because I want to know what current state of affairs are.
Well, let's see. Let's see what comes up.
Okay. So the first question that I kind of was thinking about while you were talking, and so I think that, again, I came very late to romance. I went through English degree where, like, it was so kind of like, oh, like, there's literary fiction, like, you know, like, yes, people read romance, but you shouldn't, like, because you're an academic.
Mm-hmm.
So I very much came very late to discovering just how much I love romance. And Jessica, you are one of the ones who has helped guide my reading list so much. So, like, it's very helpful to have someone who is such an expert and so kind with, like, telling people, like, this is what's going on in the world of romance. Like, here are the various multitudes of things that you can experience. So I'm curious, from my limited experience, I see a lot of things happening in queer YA fiction that I don't see happening in adult fiction, adult queer romance. And I'm wondering if that's just because of my limited experience, or is it really just like there's such a small representation in both of these worlds that I haven't seen much overlap.
Yeah, I would say it's a little bit of both. And as Kosoko can probably tell you, traditional publishing can be a little slow. And romance even more so, because there's such a machine going that they will buy books that are going to be published in 4 years sometimes. So there's a little bit of that, and there's probably a little bit of gatekeeping. I don't know how true that is, but I could probably, like, there seems to be, for some of the publishers, kind of we don't need you, we have that already kind of thing. But because of that, there might be more of what you're seeing in YA happening in the indie world. Romance has such a broad collection of indie published romance, and so, you know, some of those people are only publishing via Amazon, but there are a lot of people who are looking to be able to publish digitally in places where, like, for Kobo, where people can support their independent bookstore or have them published and have them printed so that like you can get them in your stores and that kind of thing. But since there are fewer barriers to publishing for yourself, I think some of the things that you might be missing in adult romance might be happening. I'm not going to say is happening, but might be happening in those circles just because it's a little easier to get things printed or published that way.
I think that's it. I think that's true. And I think publishing is also like, I work in the private sector and I used to work in nonprofit. So up to about 3 years ago. So I was very much like the good is the most important thing. For bad is I don't understand why businesses don't understand that. But from like working from the other side, not to justify it at all, but I understand the businesses are like, what's going to make us money and make sure our bottom line hits. And for whatever reason that we want to admit, I mean, queer books don't always do that. They're risky in almost every single market. They take more marketing because of like the society that we live in. And that's an unfortunate thing. And the only way that will change is by publishing more queer books. But publishing more queer books means taking more risks. So it's an Ouroboros that it's eating itself. So publishing is usually always like behind. I think I like to say publishing is usually like 4 to 6 years behind of what's actually happening in the zeitgeist. And so by the time we get there, it just doesn't work out. And publishing is a very weird machine.
Jessica, what percentage is it of like the percent that you share in the introduction where like college educated Black women are like this percent of book buyers?
Oh gosh.
It's like,
I don't think I actually use a number because I couldn't find one that matched.
Oh,
I think I just said most likely.
Okay. I thought, in my head, I put a definite percent. Because I've heard this before. Like, this is not new knowledge. Maybe I heard it from you. Who knows? But, like, why? Like, how is it that publishers haven't clued in on this? Like, that is always the thing when I hear this that just kind of baffles me. Where I'm like, okay, clearly they are buying books. They are buying books starring white people that don't look like them. Like it just like baffles me as someone who doesn't work in publishing but works closely with publishing. It blows my mind. So I don't think I have a question in there.
And I think like exactly kind of like to answer your unasked question, publishing sees that with so little to actually be able to find that matches our own representation, we will continue to buy books featuring people that don't look like us, that aren't like us. So they don't particularly care that we're asking for representation because they see that we'll spend our money anyway.
Yeah, perfectly said.
Can we get into some juice and gossip about certain romance awards that like I want to know what's happening.
I don't have any knowledge here, so
I don't know what's happening anymore. Actually, like the I imagine you're talking about the formerly Rita's, now Vivian's. So the Rita Awards had a 40-year history of incredibly rarely producing any winners of color, let alone Black.
Or nominations.
Or nominations, even nominations. Like, to speak on the same person that we've been talking about. Beverly Jenkins just decided to stop offering her books in because one thing that the Vivians held on to that the Ritas had were that you had to nominate your own book and you had to pay to get in, to have it presented as a potential nominee. So a lot of people just stopped spending their money on it because they weren't getting past the first round because the people involved had very specific ideas of who could win, what kind of book could win, what kind of relationship could win. And they pushed those books forward. And when some people in the romance community spoke up about it, it wasn't taken very well. And then everything exploded and imploded, and other ODIDs, and then we sort of didn't have an active RWA board for a while. And then they came up with the Vivians, which was a great idea to honor Vivian Stevens, who basically created modern romance. Like she, you know, a Black woman who established the RWA in the first place, who got so many people into their careers, who basically built up all of these category romance imprints from scratch, and then was so forgotten that some of us thought she might have been dead, but she isn't. She is very much alive. And then the Vivians kind of did all of the same stuff. Like the first annual Vivians included I can't remember if it was a nominee or a winner that included a romance hero who, when we meet him, is participating in systemic genocide. So it's like, have you really made the changes that you intended to make when you rebuilt from scratch, as you say, this award? So I guess we can keep watching and waiting and look and see.
I had hoped for a little bit of a different story, but is just like, I see it in other genres as well. Like the sci-fi awards have had some really disgusting things happen in their awards, and I know several mystery author friends that are battling very similar kind of things that are happening there. I think that the mystery awards are maybe like, I feel like they're like pushing forward faster. Maybe, I don't know. But do you think, did some of this book come from kind of that happening? Was all that drama and chaos and realization and history coming to light and being seen by people outside of the publishing world and people outside of, because I mean, I saw people that weren't even romance readers seeing this and commenting on this and saying how, like, so I'm wondering how much of this book was maybe able to not be inspired like that. No, that's that's kind of like what I'm aiming for with my question. It's been a long day.
Did some of that help bring this book to light? Is maybe what you're asking. Yeah, I'm an hour behind you, so I've got a little bit more brain power. Like you said, this book was inspired before the epic fireball that happened with RWA, but it was something that was talked about in my initial proposal. Actually, was how much the romance community itself had been affected by this whole like lack of recognition for Black authors and lack of actual support for Black authors in some places even. So it was something that probably had embodiment in first the proposal and then the conversations that I had with some of the authors afterwards, and might even have been part of the conversation enough that helped get it sold. I don't know that what happened on that end of the conversation, but you know, people were talking about it, and some numbers and some names were brought to light as far as not just the fact that there were all of these Black authors who felt like they were living in a bubble, but that there were people who were looking for these voices. So I think it came at the right time.
I actually I just want to create a special category for this book. Like, we don't really have a nonfiction romance section, but I want this book to be like right there with all the romance books that they can see, like, oh, here you go. Like, here are all these books, and here is this beautiful book that tells you why you should be reading all these incredible books. Like, all right, what's your favorite trope?
Gosh.
I know
favorite trope.
I know what some of your least favorite tropes are.
Really? How could you tell? My favorite, okay, so rival lovers, forced proximity, and fake relationship are three of my favorite tropes. And when they end up being joined together in any situation, that's the best thing. And I can see Kosoko's face like, huh, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, that sounds very familiar. Very familiar. Mine, since we're doing three, are Grumpy Sunshine, Office Romance, and Enemies to Lovers.
What's the one with the baby? I always forget that it exists because I don't read any of them.
Surprise Baby?
Is it Surprise Baby?
Yeah, there's surprise baby, surprise pregnancy.
The panel that I hosted with Adriana Herrera was on it. Like, every author on the panel said surprise pregnancy or like oopsie baby or whatever they called it.
It should now be called Oopsie Baby. Like, I think that should be the new name for that. Is Oopsie Baby.
Oopsie Baby.
But that was like collectively their least favorite. But then they also said like, oof, but there's that one example. Yeah. So I don't have a least favorite romance genre because I just I get so sucked in like immediately. Like, I don't remember what you thought about this one, but I read Charm Offensive and like my one day off last week. I just I couldn't put it down. Oh,
I really enjoyed the Charm Offensive. I had some thoughts about the way that it was diversified, like, because honestly, Dave could have been Dave, and I'm not sure anything would have had to been written differently. But as a book, I absolutely loved everything about that story. The mental health representation, the way that I don't watch reality dating television, but for some reason I am drawn to romance novels set in reality dating television, and that was just I loved everything about that one. So it's just so good.
Yeah, I did not understand at all the competitions. It was like, did they force women to basically do gladiator style? I had no idea because I also don't watch reality TV. So, yeah, because there's not enough queer representation in reality TV to make me watch it.
That's fair.
Yeah. Somebody was talking about one of the shows. I can't remember what it is, but instead of just having the queer person that everybody is falling in love with, just have everybody be queer and have a free for all. And it was you know what, I might watch that one. But
have you been to a gay bar at midnight? because that's a, like, or I guess closing time, whatever closing time is. That's about to get
bring out the camera.
real ugly. I used to work at a gay bar. Closing time. No. That's when all the drama happens, and that is what they would inject into that show.
Oh gosh. Oh, I'd almost watch it for that kind of drama. But I need my drama to end well. I really need my drama to end well. That's why I read romance novels.
Exactly.
Romance are maybe what got me through the pandemic. Like, I sporadically over the last 5 or so years, threw in some romances. But the pandemic, I just was like, no, I can't read even my beloved mystery and true crime genre. You get a happy ending in most of those, but it's just not the same. I need romance. I need that beautiful happy ending.
Absolutely. Yes. Anything can go wrong because at the end
there's going to be a happy ending.
Yeah. All right. Well, I could talk for hours to you, Jessica, literally. And I'm glad that we didn't get into too much juicy gossip because I could have asked you about Jingle All the Way, could have gotten into some other things.
Well, I wrote a whole essay about that, so please go ahead.
And I read it. And Kosoko, I am so happy to have finally gotten to meet you, and I am thrilled about all of your books coming out this year.
Thank you.
One's already out.
Yeah.
One comes out in, you said 31 days?
Yes, 31 days. No one's counting. Me.
And then one in December. So we have so many books of yours to look forward to this year, which is just a gift.
And then I'm sleeping. Don't ask for another book. I'm done.
Unless Jessica asks, because you did say, obviously, if Jessica asks for something.
Anthology submissions are easy. I can crank those out in a couple of days.
For some reason, it's so much easier to just let your heart bleed than to actually produce real people that exist and have to go through lives.
3,000 words also is easier to write than 100,000 words.
This is true.
All right. Well, to anyone watching this, I cannot tell you enough how much Black Lives Matters is just a book that belongs on your bookshelf. It is going to change the way you read. It's going to change the way you think about romance, about books, about so many different things. It will surprise you how you are changed by reading this book. So buy the book. It is available for sale at left-bank.com. Link is in the comments. And I want to thank you for joining us tonight because you are very special as well. And it's really just such a pleasure to have you in the audience. And hopefully we will see you again next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having me.